Call the Thursday, December 28th Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda would be consider approval of this December 14th meeting. Any changes?
No.
That's perfect. Next item on the agenda would be the November financial statement. Kim Rowe.
Thank you. This is revenue and expenditure activities for the City of Hayes, month ended November 30, 2017. Revenues in November totaled $1,880,052. That's an increase of $96,000 compared to the same period last year. Notable areas of increased revenue. The increase above is due in large part to the timing of local alcoholic liquor tax receipts, as been previously mentioned, due to a change in the state's processing of that revenue. And while year-to-date total water consumption is down negative 0.55%, year-to-date total water revenue is up 10.68%, or $300,000. One notable area of revenue decrease is court fines are down $15,800 compared to this time last year. Expenditures in November totaled $1,835,567. That's a decrease of $106,391. Some areas of increased expenditure. General supplies expenditures were up $27,000 due to the purchase of glass beads for marking paint. That would be at the airport. And airport improvement was up $78,000 due to beginning work on Taxiway I. Fleet maintenance was up $7,000 due to increased fuel expense as compared to last year. Notable areas of decreased expenditure. City Commission capital reserves fell $68,800 due to the beginning of the 8th Street design at this time last year. Fire department expenditures were down $11,800 due to the payment of training certification this time last year. And new equipment reserve was down $108,800 due to the purchase of 4 new police vehicles at this time last year. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $569,160. That's a decrease of $30,625, or negative 5.1%, as compared to a year ago. Year-to-date general fund collections are at $6,523,314. That's down a negative $85,664, or a negative 1.3%. When compared to actuals from a year ago. The report of quarter-to-date sales tax collections by industry classification was down $16,928, or negative 0.86. Those top 10 represent 74.6% of the total quarter-to-date sales tax distribution. One positive trend on that report is the classification for department stores. We have continued to see this trend up. While it's still negative, we have seen this trend up over the last few months and is now flat according to the attached report. Finally, the Finance City Clerk's Office invested $3.75 million in maturing or renewing certificates with a weighted average interest rate of 1.61%. The portfolio certificates of deposit on November 30, 2017 totaled $55.95 million with a weighted average interest rate of 1.18, up 0.48 from a year ago. Total balance of the money market account on November 30, 2017 was $1 million with a current yield of 0.2, and total investments are up $1.45 million when compared to this time last year.
I would move that we accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second by Commissioner Jones. Comments? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0. Citizen comments? See any citizens? Consent agenda. Request approval on some appointments for the Hayes CVB, Bethany Bell, first term, Sean Patel, second term, Leah Purdy, second term, Stacy Smith, fourth. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Jacobs. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Unfinished business. Next item on the agenda, resolution setting public hearing for the establishment of a tax increment financing TIF district.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. My presentation tonight will mirror last week and will encompass items 6 and 7, but at the end we'll have separate motions for those. We are in receipt of an application for economic incentives and the required application fee relating to a hotel and convention center project on West 43rd Street, submitted by Hayes Hotel LLC and Mitra Developers LLC. From here on, we'll call him developer. This is a rendering, as you see here, of the planned Hilton Garden Inn with the convention center attached. The developer seeks incentives to construct an approximately 75,000 square foot Hilton Garden Inn full-service hotel featuring 100 rooms to be located on West 43rd. That's immediately west of the existing Walmart Supercenter. The hotel will include an approximately 8,400 square foot conference and event center and a restaurant lounge area. The possible second phase of the project includes construction of a new restaurant and/or commercial retail to be located on outparcels on that project site. There will also be infrastructure improvements to serve the site, including water, sewer, street, utilities, and pedestrian substructure. This is the property that you recently annexed into the city, immediately abutting Walmart and where the proposed project would sit. We'll talk in a bit about the developer's desire to create tax increment and community improvement districts, but this shows the district inside of the annexed property we just saw. This district would, or these districts would encompass about 6 acres. This is a site plan with the hotel and convention center. You can also see the 2 outlots included. Phase 1 is expected to begin construction in 2018, following the city's approval of the requested incentives. We will review a timeline for all that in a bit, but construction is expected to be completed approximately 18 months thereafter. Phase 2 of the project involves construction of a new restaurant and/or commercial retail to be located on the 2 outparcels of the project site. However, no specific time frame has been set forth regarding the Phase 2. Per the term sheet that was provided, there were several benefits to the city cited. First is the public infrastructure. The extension of infrastructure along 43rd Street will be constructed to service the project at the cost of the developer, including water, sewer, street, utilities, and pedestrian improvements. Next is sales tax revenue. The city and county would receive the new sales taxes generated by the project. We'll talk about the TIF in a minute, but that would not include those sales tax. So the city would receive the generated sales tax there. The next benefit would be the addition of a convention center. The addition of a full-service hotel and convention center would enhance the city's ability to attract business visitors and provide a venue for hosting local events. And finally, additional hotel rooms. The city is in need of additional hotel rooms. Many groups that have activities in the city, such as Special Olympics basketball, have expressed concern with the lack of available hotel rooms in the area. We'll go more detail a little bit in a minute about the incentives being requested. The developer is requesting a tax increment financing, or TIF, a community improvement district, or CID, sales tax of 2%, and finally the retention of the transient guest tax, or TGT, generated at the property. So for the Community Improvement District, the CID, it'd be a new 2% sales tax imposed at the site. It would have a 22-year life. That's per state statute. It's pay-as-you-go, so they're not requesting that the city issue any bonds. They would be financing that portion. And the developer does estimate that the CID would generate approximately $3.11 million in CID sales tax revenues over that 22-year term. This shows you basically how the sales tax would be stacked out there. Again, 6.5 to the state, the 1.75 to the city, the 0.5 to the county. All that would be retained as normal. What would go on top of that then would be the 2% CID sales tax to reimburse the developer for CID eligible costs only. On the TIF side, the tax increment financing, this would be property tax only. It's incremental property taxes at the site. It's a 20-year term. Again, pay as you go, no bonds being requested. And the developer estimates on the TIF, it would generate about $3.7 million incremental property tax revenues. So this shows you how that kind of stacks up. Currently, the base is fairly small out there right now. It's green space, so there's not much tax generated out there. in a scenario where it would generate 100,000 in tax increment, this is how it would fall. You still have the base, or you start with the base. The school district would still receive their 20 mills and their 8 mills for school capital outlay, and the state would still receive their 1.5 mills, and then the remaining, or the increment, would go to the developer, captured to reimburse the developer for their TIF eligible costs. And then transient guest tax rebate, that's an annual rebate. They would like to capture that 5% out there. This is something that the CVB would receive normally in a normal situation. This is something the city has never done before. However, what they're projecting is a 20-year term, and that the developer does estimate about $1.82 million out there over the first 10 years. In general, the 5% transient guest tax imposed by the city is for the promotion of conventions, tourism, and economic stability of the city. The TGT rebate is expected to be used for ongoing maintenance and upgrades at the hotel site. The TGT rebate would be conditioned on continued operation of the hotel and convention space under a Hilton flag, with any subsequent change in hotel flag subject to city approval, of course, and certain other conditions set forth in the agreement pertaining to the TGT rebate. Per the agreement, they would have to provide the same documentation to the city concerning eligible TGT expenses that they would provide to their Hilton brand. This would be an agreement between the city and the developer. It is effective upon commission approval, so it would wait on the TIF and the CID incentives to go in force before it would be active. And there are conditions for the rebate, some clawback included in that. So a timeline, this evening, we would be asking for the resolution setting a public hearing on the TIF district creation, and then approving the TGT agreement. They're asking for the agreement. It's a little cart before the horse. However, this enhances their capability of securing financing. So this is a revenue source that they can prove to their banker that helps them secure financing. On February 8th, then, we would hold the public hearing and approve an ordinance creating the TIF district. Then we'd be back in March for a resolution calling for a public hearing on the TIF project plan, and a resolution calling for a public hearing on the CID creation. And then hold those hearings in April in the ordinances, approval ordinances of both the project plan and the CID sales tax. And then, of course, those actions then would ratify the effectiveness of the TGT agreement, and also approve the development agreement at that time. So tonight, options on the TIF would be to adopt the resolution setting a public hearing for the establishment of the TIF district, decline that, or provide us other direction. So tonight's requested action and would be to adopt resolution 17-16, setting that public hearing for February 8th of 18.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2017-016, setting a public hearing on February 8th, 2018 for the establishment of the tax increment financing district.
Second. I'll take it.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Myers. I just want to ask a question. I know I asked this last week. So none of this goes into effect until the facility is built, up and going, correct?
Correct, yeah, they can't, the TGT is the increment, so they don't get increment until everything's set in place and the appraiser comes out and does a final appraisal, and then the assessor assesses
And
taxes.
there's really no risk to us. I mean, it's pay as we go. So I mean, it should be, like you said very well last week, it should be a win-win for the community. So I think it's
I've talked to a number of citizens since last week's meeting, and by a number, I mean more than 5. Everybody's really excited about this. I have not heard one negative word about us doing anything with this, with prospects. A $19 million investment in this community is pretty exciting for us right now.
I want to talk about the incentives process that we have now. It's something, looking at the internet, it's something that people remember us losing a truck stop a couple years ago. And the system in place at the time did not work. This system that we've worked on now and kind of tweaked for the last couple of years has been flawless. It's been everything ready to come to us as the developer did. If this thing would have been, if things were in place 2 years ago like they are now, we would have a truck stop out on exit 157. I hate to keep bringing that up, but that's what people are talking about around town, and they really do want a truck stop, and I hope that somebody comes in and relooks at this process and how easy it is. But at the same time too, looking at the figures, I don't remember exactly what the figures were, but I think that what we offered the people at the truck stop was more than this with a project about the same size, and they ended up walking away from the table. So this is a good deal for the city, it's a good deal for the developer. This is gonna bring people to Hayes, and we're gonna make sales tax off of it. It'll be another venue to have events around town, and people like to come to Hayes. It's gonna give them a place to stay and do their events, so that's really all I've got.
I think the economic development policy and team that put it together really did outstanding work, and that's what makes everything work. That policy is like you said, flawless, and I think it worked really well in this situation. I agree.
Yeah, and I would say that as far as the convention center portion of the hotel, I did have one person contact me that spoke directly to the transient guest tax portion of it and giving that for the convention center. So that was the only negative feedback that I've received, and it was just one person. But you know, I guess in my mind, I have to think back to, you know, even before I was on the commission, you know, there was a plan out there for the city to construct, build, and manage and maintain a convention center north of I-70. And that would have been financed by basically an additional tax on a lot of the retail on the north side of I-70. So a lot of people who mostly, you know, are people who live in our city and also people who come to our city to shop would have been financing that. And I don't remember any of the numbers, but if you look at the expected transient guest tax over 10 years, you're looking at less than $200,000 per year that we would be rebating back to them. And keeping in mind that that money is coming from the people who are staying on the property. I don't know. It's just, you look at that compared to the previous plan, which would have placed the burden on the general taxpayer at that time. Not to mention then the city would have, if that was just to build it, then the city still would have been responsible for running it and maintaining it, and would have cost probably a lot more than $200,000 a year. I'm for sure about that. So, you know, this is a way to get all of the benefits without having to build it, maintain it, run it. So that's somebody else's problem. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't know, the TIF I think the one area is maybe the TIF district, but you know, even that, you can still see that, you know, at least the schools are getting their capital outlay portion and things like that. So I think overall there's a lot more here for us to gain than to lose, for sure. Yeah, I do think that it's going to be a win-win. I think that the folks who are building it are going to win because I think it's a facility that we need, and I definitely think that the city overall is going to be winning. And I think too, to what Commissioner Jones said, this is another example of changes that we made early on. The commission requested and the commission changed the process, and I think the process is working. And now we're seeing the fruits of that, and I really think over the next year to 2 years we're going to see, I think we're going to see that change bear more fruit than just this.
Well, and I will just touch on what you were just saying. I had one person actually, you know, question why we're giving the transient guest tax away. But I've also had, as I mentioned last week, businesses, other hotels, say how they realize what it's going to do for them having a convention center. It doesn't mean everybody's going to stay at that hotel. I know they probably want them to, but there's going to be more people come. So like I said, I think it's a win-win, and I'm excited. I hope it all goes through sooner than later.
Well, and I think also one thing, I don't know if you had this too, but they were asking, you know, well, what happens when the next hotel comes in and wants that? Well,
Right.
what are they bringing?
Yeah.
Are you just building a hotel, or are you bringing something else? I think that's a pretty easy conversation to have, so.
And we're getting something the communities wanted.
Right, yeah.
Like a hotel with a water park in it?
Right, exactly. I mean, if you're just building a hotel,
I'll take that.
I think that's a pretty easy conversation to have, so.
I would
And
take,
I did do some reading about convention centers, and they really are losses for a lot of hotels. So I think the fact that they're taking this on is, again, the confidence they have in this community in this area.
yeah. right.
For sure.
Agree. Take the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0. Need another motion on the next one.
I would move that we adopt resolution 2017-17, approving the execution of a transient guest tax agreement between the City of Hayes and Hayes Hotel LLC and Mitra Developers LLC.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second by Commissioner Jacobs. I think we've labored enough.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item on the agenda, 40 and 8 boxcar. Mr. Boyd. Boxcar Willie. There we go.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks.
That's good.
On August 16th, the City Commission agreed to allow the 40 and 8 boxcar to be moved to Veterans Park after the American Legion building sold. This is a photo of the actual boxcar sitting in Veterans Park. This will be looking at it from the east side. This is a picture of it looking at it from the west side. We did choose to face it west because because that's private property now where folks used to park at, we are going to kind of make parking and sidewalks on the west side of the facility. So it was determined that facing west would be a better option for us. This is an actual survey that was done by Daryl Kristen, Advanced Land Surveying, showing the actual location of the boxcar here with the steps on the west side. So, kind of put things in perspective, this is where the tank currently sits. To the north of the tank would be where the boxcar's at. The City Commission, after we talked about moving the boxcar, the City Commission directed staff to obtain pricing to finish the project, which included a roof structure, concrete, and a security fence, and then bring that item back to the Commission for further discussion. Meanwhile, the members of the 40 and 8 group were to continue seeking donations for the project. Total cost to move the boxcar and complete the roof structure, concrete, and fencing is $24,565. The 40 and 8 members have raised $11,000 in cash so far and are still $13,565 short. However, in addition to the $11,000, the group did receive confirmation of donation for materials and labor to install electrical and lights from RDH Electric, which is a value of $2,000. And then also Daryl Christian from Advanced Land Surveying provided the survey and the layout to us free of charge, just his time and labor. That value is also estimated at $1,500. The 40 and 8 members are requesting matching funds from the city in the amount of $13,565 to help get this project completed. When considering the monetary donations received and the labor and material donations received from RDH Electric and Advanced Land Surveying, the requested matching funds amount is actually less than 50% of the project costs. Our recommendation from city staff is to approve the requested amount up to $13,565 to finish this project. Right now, it's currently sitting out in the snow. It has no structure over it. We'd sure like to see that protected and have another nice thing for folks to come to Veterans Park to look at.
I'll move we authorize the city manager to fund up to $13,565 using City Commission capital reserve funds to finish the 40 and 8 boxcar project.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Jones.
I first would like to thank Advanced Land Surveying and RDH for their in-kind efforts on this. I think the Legion has done, the 40 and 8 group have done a great job fundraising, and I'll tell you right now, fundraising is not easy. I think Commissioner Jones said last week he'd vote to fund the whole thing if we had, and I would say the same thing. I think this is a great project, great for our community. Extremely proud to be part of it.
I was hoping Mr. Holtzmeister would come
I
tonight,
wish so,
because I had
too.
some questions for him about, specifically about that boxcar, because I did some reading on my own. Out of the 50, I found out today there's only 39 left. Do you know how that one ended up in Hayes?
Well, I don't for sure, but I do know that it was at Fort Hays State for a while, and then it moved from Fort Hays State to the American Legion. I also, when visiting with Mr. Holzmeister, as I understand it, it's top 5 in the nation on its aesthetics and the way it's been maintained. So when other folks come to our community, they see this boxcar, they're amazed at the condition it's in. So
I was actually going to comment about that too, because a lot of them don't have the coats and arms anymore. That looks exactly like the way that it was when it came over, so it's been very well taken care of. It's something, when Hayes Post first put this on there that they're looking for a place to move this boxcar, there was comments about people from all over the state wanting this to be moved there. It wasn't, lots of communities would be very proud to have this in their community. I know I'm proud to have it in our community. It's been something that, I've looked at several times and gandered at, and it's beautiful, and the stories behind it are amazing, and how it came to be and how the French sent that over to us. But I think this is absolute no-brainer. I wish the 49 people would have asked for complete matching funds and not just to get them to where they need to be. The fundraising that they did is to raise that much money in this time is quite amazing. So I'm glad that they did this, and very proud to be a part of this project.
Vive la France. No, this is a good project. Yeah.
That's-
I actually didn't know about it being a top 5 car. I'm really glad that you did that. That's really
Yeah, that is
interesting.
interesting. Well, once again, it just shows volunteers in this community that happens over and over and over, what they make this community what it is. So I would agree with you. This is something we should, and I believe we're going to do.
and they did have some other large cities that were trying to get this boxcar during this process. So
Can't have it. It's ours.
we were fortunate.
Let's keep it that way.
Absolutely. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
I'd just like to wish all the staff and the citizens a very happy and safe new year. I wanted to say again that it's really my privilege to serve on this body. I was appointed to this position this year. Very fortunate to actually begin in January the elected term, and I'm very proud, and I promise to work hard. I appreciate this community, and I appreciate our staff the most. Thank you all for everything you do.
Well, thank you. This is kind of an emotional meeting for me, because this is the last time I'll be sitting up here at the end of the meeting. So
You got a work session, sir. Don't try to sign off that quick.
for televised stuff anyway, so last meeting. But I have been very proud. I've been lucky that I've had help along the way. I've had some friendships that I would have never expected out of this. I think that learning from Commissioner Swaller about politics and the way things go, and working hand in hand with the other commissioners, and it's been a wonderful experience. I think that everybody up here speaks their own mind. They vote the way that they think is best for the city all the time. So if we all thought alike, there wouldn't be any reason to have more than one of us. I steal that from Commissioner Jacobs, but it is very true. I want to welcome Chris Dinkle on board, and I think he will make an excellent commissioner as well. And thank you, and I'm proud to have served the city of Hayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything to say.
I got a couple things. I had Glenn Staub, resident of Hayes, contact me and asked me if I'd read a letter. And I told him I would at the end of the meeting, just kind of a neat thing that happened over the holidays, so if you guys would. Last Friday, December 22nd, we were getting the house ready for our family to stay the night. 5 adults and 3 grandkids were joining us for the evening. As Dottie was getting the house ready, I dropped by. I suggested we should get a new battery for our carbon monoxide detector. She informed me if it needed more than a battery as it was broke. She suggested I call my brother and see if he had any of the detectors at his store. He said he didn't, but he told me the Hayes Fire Department were giving them away. I drove to the Hayes Fire Department office at 11 a.m. and told the lady at the desk, Linda Bauman, my problem. I asked how much for a new detector, and she said they were free and we would be installed by the Hayes Fire Department. I told her that my wife had installed them before and we needed it today, and I was sure they were busy. She informed me that they would probably be able to install it that day. Within about 30 minutes, I received a call from the Hayes Fire Department, and they would be over between 2 and 2:30. Hayes Fire Department firemen Keith Murmas and Tanner Paps arrived at 2:30 and were finished about 3 o'clock. Our grandkids are 10, 8, and 6 years old. When the firemen arrived, I showed the grandkids the fire truck outside, and they were excited. As they were getting ready to leave, I asked Keith and Tanner if they would pose for our grandkids by the truck. They agreed right away. The firemen grabbed their helmets and heavy coats and handed them to our grandkids. Our grandson wore the hat and coat, and one of the granddaughters wore the helmet, and one wore the coat. I want to thank these 2 firemen for making our grandkids' day. I want to thank the Hayes Fire Department for the great service of installing CO2 and fire detectors. I'm sure Dottie and I are a long list of people who truly appreciate the great service. Sincerely, Glenn Stopp. And I have a photo, and I'll give this to the media of the grandkids wearing the fire
Very good.
equipment. So I thought that was really
Very
neat. It's
good.
always nice to hear
Very
something
neat.
like that about how great our fire department is in this town. So, thank you, Glenn. So, I also, Commissioner Jones, want to thank you for your service to the City Commission. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and I know we have another work session together, but it's